All right, so a new tour video today, and this is a special tour based on us owning Edna for 1 year. So welcome to the 1 year of ownership tour. Our last tour video was done about 8 months ago. We'd already had the coach for several months, but this is just about 1 year since we originally brought her home. And so we thought it would be a good time to do a quick tour, talk a little bit about the motorhome. The audio was not very good on the other video, and so hopefully the audio will be a little bit better on this one so that people can get a better feel for what these motorhomes are all about. It is kind of windy here, so I'm sorry. There's always just going to be some wind noise, and that's just the way it is where we are. But I'll give a little bit of background for anybody who's not familiar with the GMC Motorhome. This particular example is a 1977 Kingsley. And GMC made these motorhomes for 5 years in the 1970s. They made them between 1973 and 1978. And over those years, they made a little over 13,000 of these motorhomes. And estimates are that there's something like 8,000 of them that are still on the road. And so they've held up very well. I think they're a very cool design. So pretty fun to actually own one. But they are a pretty interesting vehicle, and I think that's why people have kept them on the road. There's a huge community of people who continue to repair them and do upgrades. There's lots of parts available, and so it's a pretty cool hobby and way to get out in nature and do some camping. All right, so we're going to start out on the outside and just walk around the vehicle a little bit. I'm going to open up the hoods here. So a couple of access panels to get to things in the front. We've done LED headlight upgrades and a few things. Of course, our grill is broken. That's a project for another day. But up front here, really it's things like the brake master cylinder and the windshield washer fluid. A unique feature about this vehicle is that this is the windshield wiper motor, I'll say. It's actually a hydraulic system. And so there are hydraulic lines that come up from the power steering pump, and then this returns the fluid back, and this is a hydraulic actuator basically to move the windshield wipers back and forth. So pretty interesting design. There are modern versions of this. You can replace all of this with an electric motor and then have modern intermittent wipers and all of that. But so far this has been working pretty well. So I think it's kind of interesting, and I plan to keep it unless we end up with some kind of problem. This coach also has an upgrade here. This is a vacuum pump, and it's connected into the brake master cylinder, actually the brake booster back there. And the idea is this has a little pressure sensor. If the engine dies when you're going down a hill, this will turn on and run on battery power to supply vacuum to the brake booster. So if the engine dies, you still have boosted brakes that help you stop the vehicle. And so this is kind of a nice safety feature. It's an add-on that I've seen on lots of these coaches. And there are a few other ways of doing this, but I think this vacuum pump is a pretty nice solution. We can move over to the other side here. And a few other just things under the hood here. The radiator fill is down here. We've got engine oil fill here. One thing I'm kind of excited about, we fixed this light. And so this is an original, let's slide it out here. This is an original drop light that came with these, and we put an LED bulb in it so it's nice and bright. There's a little switch here that turns it on and off when you open the hood, but there is wire coiled up in this, and it's about 25 feet of wire, and so this thing can unspool, and you could take it out and put it back by the back tires if you're needing to do some repair on the side of the road at night. So pretty cool feature. Of course, you probably have flashlights and lanterns and things like that if you're camping, but I thought it was cool to get this working. It wasn't working when we first got the coach, but I thought that was kind of a cool thing to get working. A few other things here. We've added on a battery combiner. We replaced some of the wiring and things like that. You can watch some of the other videos to get some details about some of those repairs that we've done. And I think that kind of wraps things up here in the front. And so we'll just do a little walk around and see some of the other outside features. All right, so we'll walk down the side here. Not a lot to talk about right here, so we'll come over. we've got a nice little add-on step, which is a nice feature to have. And then there's the door. We'll go inside in a little bit and check things out there. Our coach came with aluminum wheels, and there are a few different styles of aluminum wheels. I think the most, the ones that people like the most are Alcoa. These ones are another brand. I think they're Ultra or American Eagle. But it's nice to have kind of an upgraded wheel and a little better tire size. So these wheels use a more common tire size. And we put new tires on it last year. Needs to be done every few years. As we move back, we've got airbags here. So this is one of the really unique features of these GMC coaches, is they have the airbags that are mounted between the two rear wheels. And so as you air the airbag up, the wheels go down and it lifts the coach. You can also let air out of the bags and basically lower the coach. So it's a really cool leveling system. It also gives it a really nice ride down the road. It just kind of floats down the road. It's still kind of rattly because it's a 45-year-old vehicle, but really it drives more like a modern minivan or car or something like that, in large part because of this air suspension in the back. And then when you get on site, you can adjust the level and level things out to accommodate whatever kind of site you're parked at. Right here we have the propane tank. And we'll just open this up and take a quick look at it. So this is a really large propane tank. We've had the coach for a year. We've gone camping a few times. We've barely even seen the gauge move. We've used maybe an eighth of the tank. But we've added a plug-in here for propane grill. We ran lines into the fridge and a few other upgrades along the way. But this is a really nice big tank that I think typically with just average camping will last a few years. Well, coming around the back here, we've got a ladder to go up on the roof. We'll take a quick look up there in a minute. Spare tire, we replaced this along with the other tires. We also have a through bumper hitch on the back here, which is a pretty nice add-on. Of course, we could do some towing. I don't really expect to do towing with this, but it would be nice to put on maybe a platform to carry a scooter or something, or bicycles. So having a hitch back here is very nice. Okay, so let's take a look up top, and I'll kind of point out some of the things that we have up there. All right, so up top here, if you watched our other video, you would see that we now have a air conditioning unit, and so that's a nice upgrade. We're looking forward to having that this summer. We've got a couple of other vents, the rails up here. We may carry things on top, but I think for the most part, from our experience, we haven't had to carry anything big, and so we just pack things inside. But some of these have a cargo carrier up top here, and a way to store other things. You might be able to put some solar panels or other things up here. I've seen that on a number of these coaches, but pretty straightforward on the roof. We've done a few maintenance and repair things to seal some of the seams up here to make sure that we've got a nice seal. It's pretty cool that overall this is just a really big piece of aluminum on the roof here. So other than where there's a penetration, there's not much that can go wrong with it. All right, so we'll go up the driver's side in just a moment, but I do want to point out this seam in the back and all of these screws. It's pretty interesting that the whole back of this can come off. And when they were manufacturing these originally, there are cool videos of how they had the back off and basically were taking all the appliances and the bathroom and the closet and all of those interior pieces in through the back here. So pretty interesting design, and just one of the things that the GM did as they were making these, thinking about just engineering a motorhome rather than kind of assembling something on an existing chassis or frame. They designed it from the ground up. So let's move around to the side here and keep going. So right here we have the potable water fill, and just a little door here. Basically unscrew this, put a hose in, fill up the water tank inside. I think the water tank holds something like 35 or 40 gallons. So that's been pretty good for us for like a weekend of camping. That's been plenty of water, especially if we're a little careful about it, don't take a lot of showers. Down here we have the generator. If you've seen our other video, open this up and it's a storage unit. But one of the projects we've been working on is getting a generator installed. And so we've got the generator. We don't have it all hooked up and working yet, but this is a 6,000 watt generator. This is the type of generator that would normally come in a motorhome like this. And so pretty excited about getting that set up and running. So stay tuned for some more videos around that. We've got the house batteries back here, and these are two 6-volt batteries that are wired in series so that you get 12 volts. We installed a tray so we can pull those out if we need to do some work on them. But this is now more like what you would expect to see with the motorhome like this, with the generator and the batteries back here. There are a few different configurations based on the year, but for a 77 Kingsley, this is the type of setup that you'd normally have. All right, we can move up here. This is the electrical panel. So this is where you have your plug-in. This is what we use around the house. So this is about a 20 amp plug-in. The original, and what came with it from the factory, is this big giant 50 amp, which I think is kind of overkill by modern standards. So, you know, we have replaced the air conditioner. We have just one unit up top. If you have an electric water heater, if you have two air conditioners and you're using lots of power, maybe you need that 50 amps. When we're camping, we usually use this 30 amp connector, and then when we're at the house, we can run everything off the 20 amp. So typically when you're driving down the road, you would plug this in inside of this little cabinet here. There's a plug-in here, and then this connects to the generator. And so if the cable is plugged in here and the generator is operational while you're driving down the road, you can turn on the generator, you can run the air conditioning, and have some of those nice amenities while you're driving down the road. This is the city water connection. So if you have you know, basically an RV park where you've got water, you can screw into this. We got a pressure regulator and a filter just to make sure that we don't overpressurize the system. We don't really need a lot of pressure in this, and we don't want to accidentally create any leaks. So we've already talked about the airbags. Obviously there's one on this side also. This is for the furnace. So there's an intake and exhaust for the furnace. It has a propane furnace to warm up the interior. That was not working, but now it is. So we've got a video about getting that working. Windows are tinted more or less on this. It's probably a project that we want to do sometime in the future, is retint the windows. We haven't used this very much in the summer, but a lot of people say that it's nice to have really good tint on the windows because there's so much glass and so much window space. You do want to try to keep that heat under control, unless you want to run the air conditioning all the time, which, you know, can be a little bit of a noisy thing to do. Up front here we've got the gas fill, so pretty easy to find there. The gas tanks are actually in the back, and so there's a very long hose that takes it back to the back. And so we found as we fill this up, you have to go really pretty slowly as you fill up the gas to make sure that it doesn't back up and kind of burp out of the fuel fill. So just maybe something to get used to if you're new to the GMC motorhome. And I think that pretty much takes us to the front. I'll just mention the lighting here. I mentioned the headlights, but pretty much all of the other clearance lights and marker lights and things like that we've changed out to LED. Just like the lower energy use there, lower current draw, a little bit easier on the batteries, and especially with headlights, a lot better lighting and better performance from those. So it's another one of those upgrades that we've done. All right, well, let's go inside and check things out in there. All right, so as you come in, we're going to take a look in the back first and then work our way toward the front. Just a little different approach than we did last time, and we'll just point out some of the things we've been working on and some of the features of this motorhome. So back here in the back, this one has a little bit of work that we need to do back here. Usually there would be kind of a blanket drawer back here, a little cabinet that you keep things in. So that's on my list of things to repair. There's a little bit more side paneling and things like that that needs to be cleaned up. This coach has had a little bit of water damage over the years, and so we just want to fix up some of those things that have had a little damage. Overall though, it's in really good original shape, and so the previous owner has found a lot of the same furniture, even if it wasn't from this coach originally, and so they started to do some of the restoration, and our goal is to keep it as original as we can, but still maybe do some of the mechanical upgrades. And that's part of why we really liked this coach, is that it had already had a lot of the mechanical upgrades and some of the interior things to keep it pretty original. We didn't want one that had been completely gone through, maybe 15 or 20 years ago, and didn't really look like the 1970s motorhome that it was originally. But we want it to be reliable, we want it to be safe, we want it to be relatively comfortable, and so we are doing some upgrades to do that. All right, so talked a little bit about things that are going on back here. There's some nice storage up top, so we've got some blankets and towels and things in here. There's also some nice storage over here. We've got some more sheets and blankets and things like that. Many of the coaches do have some storage like this, and we'll have a little more once we get this cabinet back here. These two benches fold out into basically a double-sized bed. So I'll kind of fold them out, and then we can take a look at what that looks like. All right, so folded these out. We've put a little bit of maybe a wood here just to keep the pillows and things from falling off the bed space. Once I build those spaces on either side, that will be much more finished and much more comfortable place back here. This bed is pretty comfortable, not perfect. So I'm 6'2", and I fit on it pretty well. We actually like to put a couple of roll-up kind of mats on it to help smooth things out. These buttons are not particularly comfortable to sleep on, and so nice to smooth those out and then make it up with some blankets, and it's a great place to spend the night. Okay, now we've moved into the hallway. So on this side, we've got a closet, and we've got some drawers and a couple cabinets, and we have a bathroom over here. And so we'll talk a little bit about this. I'll open up the closet first, but first I'll mention these cabinets and drawers here. These are, basically just storage areas. Originally, when we got the coach, these were starting to kind of fall apart. This is a Formica over particle board type of material. It's 45 years old, and so it was showing its age, and it looked like there'd probably been some water damage at some point. And so we found another coach, and a lot of these have the same interiors with the same kind of materials, and even though it had been pretty much completely gutted and was being scrapped because the frame was rotten and there really wasn't much to save on it, this closet module and the cabinets were in great shape. And so we were able to get those, install them in ours, and now have much nicer, better condition cabinets. So go into the closet here. So nice little mirror for doing a little dressing or anything. We've got some storage. We've got some organizers, things, towels and jackets and things like that when we're camping. So when we camp, we try to put our clothes and things in here just to keep them out of the way while we're doing other things around the coach. For these cabinets, I won't go through all of these, but this top one is storage. So we keep some of our grocery type things, dry goods up here. These two are drawers. And so these two, we just have, miscellaneous supplies, camping gear, fire starter, stuff like that if we're going to be doing some camping. These bottom two are more of the kind of mechanical and electrical parts of the coach. And so I'll open this one up so we can take a look inside. This one has all of the electrical service. So we've got the circuit breaker panel here. This is for the 120 volt electrical system. So main circuits, air conditioner, water tank, the 110 outlets around the coach. We have the switch for the hot water heater. There's also the battery charger and converter there, and so that is what supplies all of the 12 volt systems. So pretty much all of the lighting and everything in here is 12 volt. The refrigerator runs on 12 volt when it's on propane. So this manages those electrical service things. There's a couple other, we have a USB charging hub and things like that, just to kind of manage power while we're camping. So I'll close this and do a quick one down here. So in our last video, we've been putting a little mint in here to keep mice away. In our last video, we had a much smaller compressor. This is an aftermarket air compressor system, and this is basically kind of a remote control to adjust pressure on each side of the airbags. And so the raising and lowering of the airbag system. The compressor we had originally was much smaller and would overheat and shut down, and it took quite a while to really air the bags up or down. This one has performed great. So it never shuts down. It has all of the air supply we need and works out great. So we've been very happy with that upgrade. All right, so now we'll take a look in the bathroom. And as we come in here, we've got a nice little medicine cabinet. We've put in LED lighting on both sides, so it's nice and bright in there. Of course, got a sink, got the toilet, and this is a wet bath, so the shower is just right here. So you close those curtains kind of across the sink and across the door, and then take your shower. It's got a floor drain, a little more storage there under the sink, but not exactly a huge bathroom, but it's big enough for what we need, and pretty nice to have when you're camping and want to clean up. All right, now we'll work our way forward a little bit. Start with the refrigerator. So this is one of those things that we replaced a few months after having the coach. We got a Norcold refrigerator. It's got a nice big freezer up top and refrigerator. It works on 120 volt. So if we're plugged in at a campsite, or if we have a generator that's running, or if we're at home, we can run it on 120 and it cools things down, works great. It also runs on propane. So if we're camping, dry camping, we have propane that we can run it on. And we've done that for a long weekend. It was like 2 or 3 days, and it did great. Made ice in the freezer, kept everything cold in the refrigerator, so that was very nice. We've got a little storage down below here. So just there's a storage video that we did where we talk a little bit about the storage. And that's just a little extra space. If you have a vacuum, so these originally came with a vacuum, that bottom space would be filled up with some of the vacuum stuff. But that's been removed probably many years ago. And so now we just have a little extra storage space. Kitchen here, we've got some nice cabinets up top. This is where we keep most of our dishes, things like that, pots and pans. We've got the cooktop. This works great. I mean, a gas cooktop like this puts out a lot of heat. It cooks things pretty quick. So that's our kind of biggest challenge, is not burning things. It cooks so well. There's also an oven, and didn't really think about the usefulness of an oven in a motorhome because we're kind of used to tent camping before this. But we've cooked some things in the oven. My wife has made some cookies, and it's kind of fun to have some of those conveniences of home when you're out camping. There's a double sink, so it's covered up here. Half of it has this cutting board on it. Exhaust fan and some lighting and things like that. Most of these drawers and cabinets here are going to be for silverware and some dishes and things like that. This one is actually the furnace. So this is the gas furnace. There's a thermostat in the back that we'd kick this on if we needed the heat, and it heats things up pretty quick. The furnace works well. All right, a couple more things here. So this is the control for the generator. So if we had the generator working, we'd be able to just push this button right here to start or stop the generator. Very handy if you're going down the road and you want to run the air conditioning, which runs on 120 volt. So that's a nice feature. And then there's this control center, which gives you your level of the liquid propane, house batteries, your water tank, and the holding tank. And we made a video where we got this working, so it works, which is very nice. There's also a little more storage here. So this is where typically you would have vacuum parts, but because the vacuum's been removed, we've got an extra fire extinguisher. Can't have too many of those. And some storage, so we put canned goods, things like that in there. And also some switches here. So we've got the porch light outside, some lighting inside, and then this is the control for the potable water pump. And so if you're not on city water, if you're using water in the water tank and you want to use that, you turn on this yellow switch here to get your water. Okay, a couple more quick storage things. Nice storage cabinets up here. We keep these ones pretty empty, so this is a place where we put camping gear and supplies depending on where we're going and what we're doing. They're separate. There's a divider here, so things that you put in either of those will stay separate. There's storage underneath the seats for the dinette. There's a little bit of storage, a little kind of cubby underneath each of the driver's seats, and so far for us, we've been able to manage the storage space pretty well and be able to carry what we needed to go camping. All right, so something we're pretty excited about because we installed this last year is the air conditioning. And so if we were on 120 volt power or if we had a generator running, we'd be able to turn this on, either get just air circulation with the fan or air conditioning. We haven't used this in really hot weather yet, but we think it seems like this one AC unit is probably going to do pretty well for us, especially if we get better tinting on the windows. That'll probably help out too. And then there's fans in the front and the back that can help move the air around. So with this floor plan, one of the things, well, there were lots of things that we liked. This is the floor plan that we thought would be the best for our family. But we liked that there was a dinette. So some of them just have a couple of chairs and a small table. But we like this full dinette. It's nice to be able to sit down and play a game, have dinner, kind of hang out as a family if the weather's not nice. And this also folds into a bed for some more sleeping. The couch on this side turns into bunk beds, and this, out of the entire coach, is probably the favorite thing from our teenager, and he really likes sleeping on the bunk bed. So I'll show what that looks like set up. We'll move our pillows out of the way here, and so this bottom one just stays in place. There's storage underneath this. If you want to see what that looks like, you could check out some of the other videos. But then this back part folds out. It has brackets that are attached to the walls, and then basically there's a bottom part that's hidden when it's in couch mode that folds out to make this a more comfortable size for a bed. And then there are these straps that are a seatbelt material that hooks into the roof, and I've got to find the right spot there. It's basically just a little hook up there that it snaps onto. There it goes. And get this one on this side. And then once those are strapped down, this is built into the framing of the roof. And we have these brackets back there in the back. This makes a very nice bed, kind of a cool position. If you're in a secluded area, you can be looking outside while you're falling asleep at night. And pretty comfortable place to sleep. And then of course there's the bottom bunk for whoever's not lucky enough to be on the top bunk. Okay, and when you're all done with this, it's also pretty easy to put away. We will sometimes at night kind of store other supplies or things down on the bottom bunk, but we don't really like to leave it set up during the day. It's nice to have the extra seating. So it's just a matter of unhooking the two straps and I get on the side here, and this folds back underneath and folds back down, and then these straps just tuck underneath. We've got seat belts here also, So there are a couple of seat belts at the dinette, a couple of seat belts here, and then seat belts, of course, on the front seat. And so this is set up to have 6 people as passengers with seat belts. So now let's take a look at the dinette. We'll just move some of these pillows around. For the dinette, there's a little latch on this leg here. Before I do that, you just fold these in, a couple little supports. Our son actually kind of prefers when we're driving down the road to have it more like this, so he's got a little more space to spread his things out. You can have a cup, a soda or something here, and it's kind of nice to have that not slide around if you go around a corner or hit a bump. But then there's a little release button so that you can fold the leg up, and then this comes off the wall and just lays down there pretty nicely. You may notice that this wall has a little bit of water damage. That's something that the coach came with, and so a future project, now that I think we have all of the various leaks that we've seen fixed, will be to do some of the interior walls. So look forward to a new video on that. But then for the dinette, now that we've got the table out of the way, there's a little latch on each side where this lifts up and basically just slides down. Same thing on this side, pull the latch and slide it down. Of course, we could push that seatbelt out of the way if we were going to sleep on it, and this makes a pretty comfortable bed. And I've spent a night on this bed so far. I think our teenager has slept on it, and pretty comfortable. It's not really long, but because there's a little extra space here, you can kind of put your pillow there if you're a long person, or your feet can hang off the bottom. Obviously, a couple of kids fit in here really well, and with an outlet close by, you can charge your electronic devices if you have shore power. So to put this back up, basically the opposite thing. They're kind of spring-loaded, and so just pull it up and snap it back down in place. Do the same thing here. Put the table back up, snap the leg out, pull the supports for the table out, and put everything back the way it was. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the front. So we have these cool retro 1970s chairs up front here. A really neat feature about these, obviously, they slide forward and back, so you can be more forward or not. We kind of keep them back. The view out the windshield here is pretty awesome when you're going down the road. But another thing that's cool is both of them will spin around. So when you're in a campsite, you can pull a release and spin this around, and the driver's side does the same thing. And you have a couple more spots where people can sit around and talk. The armrests on this come up if you want a couple of armrests. We use these when we're going down the road, but kind of a cool feature to be able to, once you're in a campsite, you're settled in, you don't need these, driver and passenger seats facing forward anymore. You could spin them around and have more of a family conversation. All right, so one of the things we really liked about this coach is the view out the front. This panoramic view out the windshields is pretty awesome when you're going down the road. And so, especially the seating position being kind of forward, there's not a lot of nose in front of you. It's just kind of a cool way to see scenery as you go down the road. So I'm not going to open up the engine hatch, but it's right here between the seats. So a couple of releases here. This opens up. We've done quite a few projects on the engine, so if you want to see that, you can check out some of the other videos. But I was going to show a little bit about the dash here. So this one is pretty much original. It has the original dash with the wood grain. It's got kind of the original 1970s AC control, the old 8-track. We've got some Village people in there if we we want to really live in the 70s. This one has really pretty good air conditioning. Some of the earlier models didn't have great stock air conditioning, but this one works well. I think it's been upgraded a little bit so that it's using a more modern refrigerant. From a gauge standpoint, we've got fuel and oil and temperature. Over here we've got the speedometer, so kind of the basics. We've also got a volt gauge down here. A lot of people will add additional gauges. We haven't done that yet. That might be something we'll do in the future, but having like a transmission oil temperature, having a tachometer, things like that are nice. We've got, of course, the windshield wipers and washers, headlights. This does have cruise control. Now ours is not working, but I think that's something that we'll be able to fix in the future. It does have a tilt steering wheel, so pretty straightforward, kind of nice to have, modern conveniences driving. This is not the original steering wheel. This is an aftermarket steering wheel. I kind of just like this, leather wrapped, a little bit more modern GMC steering wheel. The one that was in this originally was very similar to what you would find on a 1970s Cadillac, I think, but it had the GMC logo. But yeah, it's been a great coach. We've been very happy with it. Plan to be doing a lot more videos. There's always more things to fix and make better, but it's already been a lot of fun, and we really enjoy camping with it. And so we'll probably do some road trips this summer and continue to fix things up. So thanks for the watch, and look forward to more videos.